It took a lot of fighting to gain independence and respect. So I was like going to class and tears were pouring down my face. I couldn't pay attention in class. I was struggling to stay awake. I'm fighting for a relationship that doesn't exist. Ugh, don't give a about anyone else.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Highest Version Podcast. I'm your host, Rainy Philivong, and on this podcast, we talk about falling in love with the process of getting better every day and becoming the highest version of ourselves. Today's guest is Stephanie Tam, Boston foodie at heart and a certified raver. She loves capturing life's most memorable memories, whether that's clicking the record button through her own vlogs or using her skilled photography skills to capture the fun of all of life's memories. She's on her self-love journey, and we are here to unpack it. So without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Stephanie Tam.
Hi.
What's
Thank
up,
you
Steph?
very much for having me.
Oh,
so excited for today.
I know. Is this your first ever podcast?
It is. Kind of excited, not gonna lie.
What feelings did you have, like, I guess, coming into this, especially like when I asked you at first?
Honestly, I was really excited. I think that like the self-love journey is something I've been like trying to preach with my friends for a while. It's taken a long time to get where I am today, and it's actually something I'm really passionate about. So I'm super excited to share my 2 cents.
Let's go.
But also, as you know, like I'm a creative. I love media. Actually, I think you said it perfectly. I love capturing life's moments, and I love what your podcast does for that, because I think that it's something people don't talk about a lot. But I also think it's just super cool to see the behind the scenes.
Yes, everyone's like, "Oh, the studio's on the YouTube." Like everyone's, it's so big. But like when they walk in, I was like, "Nope, this is just a simple room."
Randy's like, "I'm so sorry. It's so cool." I was like, "This is sick." I do not have this set up. It's super cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. So before we get into questions, I want to feature the Funko Pop of the episode, and the Funko Pop I chose for you is Raven from That's So Raven, which is like one of my childhood TV shows. And the reason why I compare you to Raven is because Raven's a creative herself. She's a fashion designer that loves to put different spins and new ways, to show everyone's elegance. And to me, with your photography and your vlogging, you are creative in yourself, and you want to, in a way, like possess not only these memories for yourself, but also possess these memories to show other people. I just feel like sometimes we get so caught up in wanting to be in the present that sometimes we really do just want to pull out a phone to keep those memories. Raven's also unapologetically herself. And as you mentioned before, you're on a self-love journey to really find, whether that's new interests about yourself or just know more about yourself and give love to yourself a little bit more, because we are our own harshest critics, and we're going to unpack on, what started that journey. But yeah, I just wanted to, get your thoughts on just those comparisons, be those two of creative and being, I didn't mention this before, but you being unapologetically yourself and you just strengthening in that. So those two, like, I guess, how do you feel about my comparison to That's So Raven?
First of all, thank you. That's an incredible take. And honestly, those are some of the nicest things someone ever said to me. But I do agree. I think that I am definitely a creative at heart. And I think that that's something that is actually kind of lost on a lot of people that are very close to me, because growing up, that's not what I was known for. And so I think that's super cool. My aunt is also a fashion designer. So she taught me growing up. And I think it's like, oh, I have a little bit of that myself, sewing my rave clothes. But yeah, I think it's super cool. And I think that I do admire, and I don't know if I necessarily relate to it yet, but I think it's something I aspire to when you say that she is unapologetically herself. And I think that that's something that everybody has to work on. And I think that's probably been the biggest battle I've ever faced in my entire life. So I appreciate that.
I'm so surprised that you said that your family didn't know you as a creative, because I feel like, we haven't known each other for long, but I feel like that's all I've known.
Yeah. It's really all you see on social media.
Oh, okay.
But in case the podcasters didn't know, I am an engineer. I double majored in engineering at an engineering school. I was just kind of a really nerdy kid growing up. I was like, captain of the math team.
Hey, nerds are cool too, guys.
I was just into so many weird things. And I knew that my parents really wanted me to be in piano, but it's actually very surprisingly little how few of my classmates knew. We'll probably dive into it in the podcast.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a lot of like the upbringing I had. But most people knew me, you know, senior superlative. I was voted like biggest overachiever, and like it wasn't really those social aspects. So I think people saying like, oh, she's a creative, that kind of thing, I think it's something that I always really loved, but it's not something that my parents really pushed. They believed in well-roundedness, so I'm definitely there because of them. But I think that they were very nervous for me to become very passionate about those things out of fear of like, oh no, what if she doesn't pursue a career in STEM?
Yeah, is that her full-time job? All the salaries or money in creatives isn't there. Yeah, the typical like, you know, Asian household. Yeah. All right, Steph, so let's get into the questions. The first thing I want to dive into, and maybe it's on the heavier side, I want to dive into one of your earlier relationships in life, and I think what really sparked your self-love journey. So just to kind of chip away at that, what part of that relationship just made you realize that you need to give yourself a little bit more love?
Ooh.
Or maybe like the top reasons, or the one that like stands out the most. Yeah.
I think honestly, like a part of it was the relationship, but most of it was the leaving of the relationship. Being in the relationship was honestly a big part of like building self-value. I think this person it's my first boyfriend in college, never dated before. Super strict Asian parents were like, wait till college to date. You're not allowed to date before college. So I think I was already like very conservative when I was choosing who to be with as my first relationship. I really wanted to just be like one and done.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of walls up, and he was the first person that I'd ever put my walls down to, including my family members. I just don't have that kind of relationship with my family. So I think being in the relationship was kind of the first step towards like, hey, like you are more than, you are beyond your achievements, beyond scoring high grades in school, beyond, you know, doing piano lessons or going to Chinese school. All these things that my parents preached were like paramount to success or paramount to avoiding homelessness.
Yeah.
So he was very much like, you are amazing. Like there are so many things that you do that you should be proud of. And I was like, oh, like, I guess that for a lack of like better ways of phrasing it, like you are worthy of being loved. And that's not just by other people. That's not just by those who are quote unquote obligated to love you, like your family,
right.
But just like you deserve to love yourself. And I think that was the first time I've ever been like, oh, like I can take pride in the things I've achieved. And the things I offer the world beyond my achievements, you know, like kindness, empathy, patience, all the little things in life.
Right.
And that's something to be prideful for. And that's not something that necessarily makes you conceited or boastful. You have a right to be proud of those aspects of yourself.
Right.
So I think that was the first step. But I think what really set me to be like, you really got to focus on yourself was after the relationship. Like I said, I don't really have that kind of relationship with my parents or my brothers for that matter. And it's not like we have a bad relationship. We were just never very emotional. And I think that with this relationship, I had finally invested myself emotionally in someone. And I was convinced that we were probably going to get married. Like I said, I wanted to be one and done.
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of the reasons we broke up weren't even within my control. He just wanted to pursue other things.
Yeah.
And he had other motivations. We don't have bad blood or anything. But when I lost him in my life, I realized that I had become so dependent on this person for like giving myself the validation and the love that sometimes I wasn't able to achieve that for myself. And I think that I tied way too much of my own self-value in someone else's perception of me. And I think that's a lesson that a lot of us learn the hard way.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm unique in that experience, but I think that like when he was like, yeah, like we're really early in college. I just wanted to explore my other options because what if I meet someone that I can't meet in that context because I'm with you? So it wasn't necessarily like you did something wrong, but it was like, oh, like I was not good enough for him to feel confident in a future with me. Or what did I do? What could I have done better? What did I do wrong? And all of these points where these pain points of growing up with my parents and them being like, oh, you need to be better in this way or a guy's not going to want to marry you. Or you need to be more feminine in this way or he's not going to want you.
Right.
It kind of feeds into those insecurities.
Yeah.
So I think that breakup was super hard for me to get through. But getting through that was like learning so many things, learning who are my real friends, who was there when I didn't have anyone else. And also learning to look for help, not being afraid to look for help. I think a lot of my friends, I felt really bad because I was like, oh, when I was in my relationship, I didn't really spend that much time with them.
Yeah.
And they were still there for me when I needed them. So I didn't want them to feel like I was just going to them because like I didn't have anyone else, but they became lifelong friends and I'm still very close with a lot of them.
Yeah.
So I'd say that was probably like, the activation energy for the self-love journey for sure.
Well, that's definitely a lot in terms of many components as you were telling that story, because you talked about growing up in a household where I can relate to it as well. Or your parents immigrants as well? Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure. I didn't want to assume. I didn't want to assume. But with immigrant parents, from my experience knowing Asian immigrant parents, growing up as a child, they really don't make you feel like you are good enough in what you do. You do everything that they say. You bring the A's, all that stuff to their plate, but always it feels like it's never good enough. And that's a lot of things I feel like a lot of immigrant, first gen kids deal with, because it's just like, oh, like whatever I do, it's never good enough. And when you look around, you see other parents being like, oh, you're doing so well, sport, or like that. It's just like, oh, like
sport.
yeah, whatever that is.
No, I totally get it. Yeah, it's a lot of that cross-cultural expectation that's difficult to navigate.
Yeah, and it's definitely hard in that sense. But also for your relationship where someone's like, oh, you deserve to be loved, which is great, to bring down your walls and open yourself, be able to be vulnerable to dating and all that stuff. I think it's super tough that for that to start out that way, and then for the end of it to him to obviously not intentional, but to make you feel like you weren't good enough. And I think those are some of the toughest ones. It's like when there's nothing wrong that happened, it's just one person felt like wasn't gonna work out or didn't see a future. So I know how really tough that is. With growing up, I know like you've gotten we talked offline about having your one of the superlatives is overachiever, and you're doing X, Y, and you're doing so much, and probably praised for a lot of being involved in a lot of those activities. But do you feel like when you received compliments for those things, did you push them off or try to remain humble?
I think from friends, yeah, for sure. I think like from my friends, it's like, oh no, like blah, blah, blah. I think part of it was also that like being humble was a huge principle that my parents pushed. So among everything, they're like, you need to be hot shit. But at the same time, don't act like you're hot shit. And I think it's a good principle to live by.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that like when they said it, I'd be like, oh, thank you. No. But definitely, actually, now that you say it, I didn't think about it. But I think a big learning curve was learning to accept compliments because you earned them.
Yeah.
And when they came from my parents, I think the reason that I never really thought much of it is because they'd be like, this is good, but it could be better. Or you did perfectly, but you have to keep that up.
Yeah.
Kind of the principle that 110% is your 100%, 15 minutes early is on time, that kind of thing. So yeah, overachieving was kind of just the expectation. It wasn't really anything renowned in my family.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of why like the compliments were kind of lost on me.
I totally, I relate to you heavily. I think when people would give me compliments about what I do, I would be like, no, like it's in a way I put it out there as like, oh, this is what I have to do, which is kind of a sucky mindset to have, because you don't, first of all, you don't have to do anything. But for the fact that you are getting compliments and getting these great things about yourself and we brush them away, that's where our self-love doesn't take into effect. And that sucks, because that's what we learned at really such a young age, right? But with your boyfriend at that time, when he complimented you, did you still feel like some of that dodginess, or like were you, because your walls were down, you were fully accepting of it?
That's a good point. I never thought of it. Honestly, I have to say I was more accepting once we were in the relationship. I think the vulnerability does make a difference. When I'm thinking about it, I think a big part of it that I do also have to consider is my parents never let me socialize much when I was in high school. It was a very much like, you're at home, you're studying, you're at track practice, swim practice, that kind of thing. And if you're not, there's always something you can be doing on your own to make yourself better. But it was never in an emotional sense. It was like your piano skills, it was studying, it was, watching videos of Michael Phelps or something.
For motivation.
I don't know why. They love Michael Phelps. Obsessed with this man.
Wow.
But I think a big part of it was that a lot of my friends in school, like, I'm not really close with anyone from my high school because I never had the opportunity to explore them as friends. And that meant that really my only interactions with them were in the classroom or at lunch, and our lunches were like 20 minutes, so I'd say like 90% of the time was in class. And unfortunately, I think in the wise words of one of our co-ops was, you made yourself valuable and it was your greatest downfall. So I think that meant my only interactions with them were really people asking me for help on certain math problems, like, oh, I know you know how to do this, or looking for advice on certain things. And I never really had the opportunity to bond with them on an emotional sense. So when people give those compliments, it almost feels like it's insincere because you did them a service, and they kind of feel guilted to do you a service, and it feels very transactional. So I guess it just, I'm sure that they were being very sincere about it. But it didn't feel authentic. It didn't really resonate with me, because I think if a person doesn't really know you, the sincerity of their compliments feels a little bit less sincere, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. Which is interesting, because I actually feel the opposite way.
Really?
Because if a stranger that doesn't even know me compliments, me or whatever, I'm like, oh, like, you say that and you don't even know who I am. Versus like my friends who compliment me and they're like, oh, I'm like, oh no, you know what I mean?
Like, you don't owe me anything.
Exactly. I'm not saying my friends owe me anything, obviously, but like, it's very interesting that you see it from that point of view.
Maybe it depends on the compliment.
It depends on the compliment, right?
That's a good point. Because if a girl on the street comes up to me, she's like, yo, your outfit's fire. I'm like, oh my god, thank you. I'm gonna be like, what, this whole thing? Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
But I think like the compliments that I got from my first boyfriend, I think were more specific to my personality. He was very he had a lot of admiration for my ambition and my empathy and my patience, and those are things that I actively practiced with him, and things he actively saw me practice with other people. With other like high school things, it was like, you're so smart, I don't know how you did that, and it's like, I'm not that smart, that kind of thing. And I think that deniability comes behind, like, one, I think that for better or for worse, I do think that some things came more easily to me than other people. So it was difficult for me to say that my effort was equivalent, because I didn't want to belittle their effort or anything. But at the same time, I think that it's because when they say like, you're so smart, bringing it back to the origin of our parents, that's something that was the expectation. It came so easily to everyone else. And I'm the youngest of 3, and my brothers are super smart as well. So they already left like a pretty high expectation. All the teachers had high expectations of me. They had a very good reputation. So it wasn't really like I was making a name for myself. I was just trying to stay afloat.
Follow in the as like, because you obviously you go through high school and with your brothers, like for context, I also know her 2 brothers, but they
dabble.
But they probably set a foundation where teachers would be like, oh, you're a TAM. So
that's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
Oh my God, are you their little sister?
And
oh
you're
my
like,
God, I loved them.
And you're great. I have all this pressure on me now.
Like, yeah, you know them.
Oh, did you ever crack at the pressure, like at that time?
Constantly. Constantly. I think there was a lot behind the scenes that, you know, your parents don't want the outside world to see or hear about. But yeah, I think like, sometimes it wasn't even, I can't even blame my parents. I think it was like partially the way they raised me, but because they raised me with such high expectations for myself, I was always pushing myself to the limit. I vividly remember going to sleep and falling asleep doing work at like 12 a.m. and setting an alarm for 3 a.m. to like continue working the next day. And my school started super early. So I would have to get up at 6 anyways to start getting ready for school. And so I'd like work from 3 to 6 and then get ready for school and go straight to school, do morning clubs, school, after school clubs, track practice, and then go home, do homework, cycle it over again.
Did you sleep?
I slept like 3 hours a night. It was insanely bad. Like, that's why I'm like, I do think I cracked under the pressure a lot, because part of it was just the sheer amount of work. But I think your tolerance becomes exponentially slimmer as you go, because you're just so short on sleep, you're irritable. And when I could sleep, you felt a huge difference. Like, I couldn't pay attention in class. I was struggling to stay awake. It was insanely stressful. And I remember my friends being like sending me the answers, and then like I feel so ridden with guilt that I just show up to class and be like, I couldn't get it done in time, I'm sorry. And the guy behind me would be like, what the didn't you copy my answers? I sent it to you last night. I was like, I don't know, it's your morals. It's your how good, I was raised. Yeah. So definitely.
Honestly, there was a time in junior year of high school where I was really tight with my AP Calc teacher. She was like, yeah, like, you're fine. You're like, you know, whatever. But her class would be like the last block. And this was running when I was also running on 3 hours of sleep. Exactly.
Hate to see it.
I would tell her like, hey, like, I'm, you know, super tired. And I was tight with my friends in AP Calc and stuff. And randomly sometimes I would just go to the back and like do push-ups. And like everyone's like, oh, Randy's tired, so he's gonna do push-ups now. And like my calc teacher, she would laugh and she would like stop whatever lesson.
It's real. It works.
But I'm like, bro, like I just need something, and it's not because of well, I mean, calc sometimes for me was not that interesting, but I still did it. But I had to, like, you know, push that, and I just can't believe you had an alarm for 3 a.m. Like,
I used to do that shit
at that point, just go to sleep and do it. Like, go get to class early or whatever. I don't know.
I really wished I could. It was like so rough. I think that at the time that I had that, I was also doing like Chinese school on Sundays. I was teaching swim lessons Saturdays and Sundays. So I didn't have a lot of like spare time necessarily. But yeah, the push-up thing is real. I did the push-ups, I did the sit-ups, and it was crazy because I had like this one fluffy pink blanket. And I would just be like sitting at my computer and just lay on the ground and fall asleep. Like, I would just sleep there. And then I'd be like, and wake up at 3 and just get back in the chair and go.
Bro, you gotta have back problems right now or something?
Honestly?
I want to talk a little bit more about that emotional side where you really couldn't, I guess, express that. With your parents and your brothers, were you not able to express just how you were feeling to them? I know, okay, parents aside, how about your brothers? Were you able to be like, hey, like, I can't do this. Like, this is really hard for me.
Oh, damn. I'm going to try to say this without crying. I think I can take that in two parts. I don't mind addressing the first part as well. I think my answer for both is similar. I think it's not that I couldn't, but I knew that it wouldn't be met with the response I needed, if that makes sense. So my parents like to preach that they are very open to those kinds of discussions, but I think that at the end of the day, as much as my dad hates to admit it and I hate to admit it, he's very stubborn at heart. And a part of that means that if he's made up his mind about how I should feel about it, I don't really have a lot of flexibility to deviate from his expectation of a response. So a lot of the time it's like, hey, like, I'm super stressed, I don't want to do this. it was kind of always dismissed as immaturity, as not knowing what's best for myself. And I think that a lot of that was like the hierarchical structure of like a classic Asian family. You know, I'm a girl, I'm the youngest, he's the eldest, he's my dad. And so a lot of that, like growing up, was my parents always valuing my brother's story over my word. I have like vivid memories as a child where like my brothers and I were like arguing. Part of why I couldn't talk to my brothers for that aspect is because they had kind of monopolized on being the older sibling a lot. So I couldn't really trust that the vulnerabilities I would share with them would be held to that regard. And they like very specifically actually would like try to point out things that they knew would get me in trouble. So they would get like, oh, my parents like, oh, you know, that's right, he knows better, like that kind of thing. Or I think honestly, like, I guess I won't drop names. We can bleep that out later.
Yeah, got you.
But I guess it was more so about like the emotional aspect was I tried to be emotional a lot. But I think that I guess like that was part of one of the other bullet points I sent to you. It took a lot of fighting to gain independence and respect. And I think that like that vision and that view of me of like this young, impressionable, naive little sister or daughter that doesn't know better for her because she used to throw tantrums if she couldn't get a toy, or she would cry if she didn't get her turn at something. I never really grew out of the flaws of that I made when I was a child. And so even though I'd grown tremendously from 6 years old, they'll always remember me as the 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And I think that's not just a family thing. A lot of people do that with their friends too. So I think that's a really hard thing to get over. But that meant that they never believed I thought things through. When I told them like, hey, I don't want to do this, they're like, she doesn't understand how good this is for her health. She doesn't understand like how this is going to help her in the future, the well-roundedness, the resume for college, that kind of thing. And I think that it took a lot of fighting to get to a point where they respected my thoughts and they had to trust that I had thought it through. And I truly, with the years of them parenting me, they have to trust that they put a good enough head on my shoulders to make sound decisions for myself and take care of myself. And I'm not someone they have to worry about.
Yeah.
And I think when I was able to do that, that's when my relationship started getting better.
Wow. I mean, again, obviously, because I'm not a woman, so I don't know what it's like to be the youngest. I don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like to be the youngest. Well, I do know what it's like to be the youngest, but a female that is being basically obstacle like course to being like, no, this is not how you should feel. No one can tell us how we can or cannot feel, right? We know ourselves what it is and what triggers us and all that. Sorry, I know I just tissues are here. So
no, you're good. Thank you.
But it is just hearing that. It's just really tough for you basically crying out for help in a way, and it's not met with that kind of compassion and grace. But I do understand in Asian immigrant families, like that's how it is. It's tough to say that's how it is because it shouldn't be how it is.
Yeah.
And that I felt like has taken, I feel like that's why your walls were probably high up when it came to like intimate relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100% that's the reason why. I think it's also like, we say that's how it shouldn't be, but I also am recognizing that that's how it should be if we were from where my parents are from. So I guess that norm that we've built in our mind of like where that healthy relationship lies is so subjective to our culture.
Yeah.
And I honestly think that a big part of like you, me, a lot of our friends who are very multicultural, I think that a lot of people, how do I put this? I think one of my biggest principles in life is I think that a lot of conflict exists when people build expectations and they're not open-minded to things not meeting their expectations. Whether that's how an argument's going to go, how they're going to win a fight, how they expect someone to react, how they expect someone to support them. Yeah. And the reality is you can't predict the future. And so I think that my parents expected a certain traditional Asian family because of where they came from. But I was raised in like one of the whitest towns I've ever seen. I think I looked up the demographic. It was like 94% Caucasian or something. So
that's pretty white.
Yeah, it was insanely undiverse and cultural. And like, I think having all of these friends with the same culture and certain expectations was how we met that deficit in the expectation versus the reality. And I think for us, like when we're saying the emotional thing was that they weren't responding the way I expected them to. I expected them to respond in a Caucasian way.
Yeah.
With a culture of freedoms and trust that my friends were afforded from their parents. And I think that when my parents didn't respond that way, I had a really difficult time navigating that because the hyper independence definitely put up walls, but only because I expected I would always have to be my own person and be my only advocate. And that was the way I was raised. I think that's the way my parents wanted me to be. And I think part of them also always wanted me to need them to show me those ropes. And when I didn't need them anymore, and I decided to find on my own a cross between the two cultures. So not doing 100% their lifestyle, but not doing 100% of the values they raised me with, having to defend my own decisions to pursue this decision, even if it conflicts with how you traditionally would have gone about it, is where it really became difficult. And I think that's when I started building the vulnerabilities with my first relationship and the second and the third, because these were people that could share the side of culture I wanted to practice that I never got the support for from my family. And when they were no longer there, of course, I never got that from my family. That's not their culture.
Yeah. You have to find your wants in other places. That's how I felt with my family growing up. Like there was some conflicts and stuff that made me feel like it didn't feel like a family. So I was searching for another one. And that's why
absolutely
friends
that's
are
perfect. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's why friends are so important to me, and why I feel like I'm on the needier side of friends, because I'm just like, well, you guys are my family.
No, retweet. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had a thought and it just went away a little bit. No, you're good. Oh, it's that something that I had to realize growing up, and obviously we realized so much growing up, right? That, and I think it's the compassion that you've already said, where our parents are, their best is what they've seen from them growing up. They didn't have the thought of, well, if you hit me, like I'm not gonna hit my kid. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like at the end of the day, like we have to understand that they tried their best, and yes, it probably sucked and it's terrible or at that time, but looking back at it, it's just like, well, what did they know? Parenting's so hard. You don't, like, you can read all the books and all that stuff. Obviously there's more resources now, but you can do X, Y, and Z, but like you never know how your kid's gonna turn out regardless of what you do. And that's why, you know, we see like those who are sheltered a lot turn into like crazy party people because they're like, well, my parents told me not to do something and now they're doing that. But yeah, it's like having that compassion with them, but also understanding your own needs at that time. To kind of speed up a little bit, going back to post that first relationship. So now you guys are you're separate. You realize like, hey, I've been codependent on this person. Now it's time to give myself a little bit of love. Do you remember those like first few things that you did to kind of start practicing that self-love journey and trying to make sure that you were independent on maybe yourself or the next relationship that you were going to go into?
So my first reaction was probably ingrained in me from my parents. I was like, this shit. There's no reason a boy should get in the way of my studies. So I was like heartbroken. I was like fully depressed. I was like going to class and tears were pouring down my face. My friends would be like, oh my God. They like text me, they're like, are you okay? And I'd have like tears dropping on my phone being like, yeah, I'm fine. And I'd be like in class trying to get my grades going.
This is why I never trust girls when they say, yeah, I'm fine.
I'm fine. I was going to tell you I wasn't fine on the 42nd time that you asked me. But yeah, it's like, I mean, like I didn't have that relationship to tell anybody that I wasn't. But I think the first thing I tried to do was like, I think there's a term, I think it's called reactive formation or something. I don't remember, but psychological term when you're under a stressor and when you react, you kind of foster positivity out of your negative emotions. And that's like people who stress work out or something. So if they're stressed, they go and become more toned. For me, that was like really pouring myself into my studies. I was in a sorority at the time, and I was pouring myself into the recruitment process. So I was really just keeping myself busy just so I could cope. But I realized that wasn't really a solution, because it felt like every day waking up was just trying to get through the day enough to get back into bed and go to sleep. And it was like an active battle not to cry all the time. So I had this one friend. Oh my God, I'm not going to cry.
It's okay. It's okay. Let it out, girl. This is the space to do it. Let it out.
Oh my God.
Take your time. Take your time.
So I have this friend, Evelyn. She's actually like world's most amazing person. I learned a lot from her, honestly. She comes from a very healthy family. She's an only child with 2 parents, and she's like super close with them, very emotional. They're very supportive. And I think her parents are also, at some point in their lives, were both nurses in a psych hospital. So they're very big on mental health. They're like very aware of like different mental disorders. They're very like welcoming and understanding. And I think also they are so supportive of her that she knew exactly what to do and exactly what I needed. So when I was really fighting for it, she would like not say anything. She grabbed like 2 of my close friends that key points where they were kind of isolated from my first boyfriend. And I think that a big part of it is like my first boyfriend and I were in the same friend group. The school is very small. You can see them anywhere you walk. So it was really nice to have like some space in that respect. And she was my freshman roommate, but she wasn't really in that friend group. So it was so nice like having that. And it was blizzarding out, and they all walked through 2 feet of snow, like 4 blocks just to come hang out with me.
Aww.
And I think that was definitely the beginning of like, there's someone here for you when you're ready. So, just gonna wipe up the tears.
It's okay.
But yeah, so I think she was a big pusher for destigmatizing therapy. And I think that I loved her so much that I didn't want her to hold that weight of being my therapist. And I think so, not even like the idea of therapy was what I wanted to do, but the idea of not making her my therapist. So I went, and it was super scary, low-key, the first time.
Oh, of course.
I probably almost walked out. But I signed the papers where they were like, we won't tell anyone. This is a safe place. And I was like, I guess it's a safe place. It doesn't hurt to try. And it was awkward for like the first 4 maybe times I went, like it for a while. But they got me, like they switched therapists, because I think like they get to know what specifically you're trying to work on, and then they get someone that specializes in that. And I think like we were talking off camera before, but my school was really great about it at the time. They had free therapy for all the students. There wasn't a cap. I know that some schools have a cap of like up to 5 sessions or something.
Yeah, UMass had that.
Yeah. So I think that, I mean, I also think it helps that it was a very small school and that it was a STEM school. So everybody was super stressed, and we really needed the resources. But they also like do an intake and like ask what you want to work on and what's wrong. And I think like in the first 5 minutes of my first therapy session, I was already bawling. I was just like, I wasn't used to being that vulnerable, and I'm still learning to be that vulnerable, as we can see. But I think that was a massive step. And so going to therapy was when I became more aware of certain things that I had that I didn't have words for. Like I knew I had them, but I didn't know exactly what that meant. So I didn't really know exactly what to do with that. And all of the strategies we did were super tacky and super effective. I think that it helped that I'd already built like a survival habit growing up. I've been journaling since I was 10 years old. I think I'm on like book number 13 or something right now. So she was very supportive of that. She really pushed me through school. And I got through that semester. It was really hard because I was overloading. I was doing work study. I was TAing chemistry. I was doing like basically 2 jobs and overloading classes and clubs and activities. And it was insane. And then for a lot of people, it was a curse. But for me, I got super lucky that a global pandemic hit.
Okay.
So I think that was definitely a blessing for me. And I don't think a lot of people can say that. It just came at a very serendipitous time for me. The pandemic meant that I got away from that really small campus where everything reminded me of him. Like, it just really consumed me. I built so many memories, and the first memories you have of everything are always so impactful that it's so hard to forget them. It's so hard to lose them.
For sure.
And I still think about them now today, but in a very different way.
Oh, yeah.
It's like very like, wow, look how far I've come. But I think that COVID not only brought me home to somewhere that was familiar, someplace he never knew, but also surrounded me with people. And at college, it was super lonely because everybody has their own shit to do. They have to figure out their work. They have to figure out their jobs. And everybody's super busy.
Yeah.
But when we were at home, you can't even do anything for fun outside.
Yeah.
So there was nowhere for people to go. And I knew even if it was out of obligation, at the end of the day, I could be as stupid as I want at home and they have to love me.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we have said a lot of negative things about our parents and like a hard upbringing, but no one can ever deny that our parents love us so much. There's so little my parents wouldn't do for me. And I think that being around that was so good for me. 1 second.
No, it's okay. To comment on that, yeah, I think like you, like when you said that you were going through a rough time and trying to do schoolwork, trying to do all that stuff, I agree. Like, it was so hard for me to like be in class, not wondering or thinking about, you know, like the problems that I was going through, where I was like, I literally like didn't study for an exam, and I was just like, I don't even care. Like, let me like try to get through it. I did get through it, and obviously didn't grade the highest, but I was like, whatever.
But you got through it.
I got through it, but like I would always go back to my dorm and just get right back into a fetal position because of the amount of frustration, the amount of negative criticism that I've had of myself basically made my body like shut down.
Yeah.
Where like I wanted to move, I wanted to get out of bed, but I couldn't because of how sad and how emotional I was.
Did you feel like that was also like a merciless loop? Because for me, I felt like part of me was guilty that I couldn't get out of it. And I think that kind of drove me down a little more.
I don't think it was guilt. I think it was just my friends being like, oh, like, bro, like, you know, like just go out, like walk, like talk to other friends and all that stuff.
Simple
Yeah,
and
and it's not, and I know like they didn't mean it in that way of like, oh, like it's so simple that you can just do it yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, like just do it, but they were trying their best with what they can do, and I didn't resonate with. I didn't want any of my friends to be my punching bags for, you know, emotions. You know what I mean?
Therapist, punching bag.
Exactly.
Yeah. An outlet.
Yeah, exactly. And I know all of them like, oh, it doesn't matter. You know, like, you know, tell me how you feel. But for someone like yourself, that's also doesn't want to be a burden. We were raised to not be a burden to anyone. To be like, oh no, like it's fine. So you keep bottling and bottling. And with a therapist, that's where I felt I was able to like just release. And also I went through
literally their job.
Yeah, literally their job. And I went through some things where I've told people stuff and really, you know, was vulnerable with them, and that backfired on me.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a huge trust breaker.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I've had the same experiences.
And yeah, I mean, even still, I don't trust a lot of people with. I really choose who to be vulnerable with, for sure. Even though I'm a pretty vulnerable person at heart. But yeah, to go back to what you were saying, sorry, I took you off track there.
No, I love the tangent. I love tangenting.
So you were talking about how your friend, like obviously your friends and all that. I'm trying to remember where you left off. I was so in my thoughts of what I was saying.
I don't know.
It's okay where I lost, but that's okay.
But I think it was just in general the scheme of just getting better. COVID.
Oh yes, the COVID. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that it was a lot of crying. I think that was my equivalent to your fetal position. Maybe they weren't mutually exclusive for both of us, but genuinely, I think that one thing that we deserve to pride ourselves on, though, is that we worked through it and not around it. I think that we both expressed a little bit of the beginning where we're kind of trying to work around it, like drowning ourselves in work, drowning ourselves in jobs. And we're not really working through the emotions. We're kind of waiting. We're waiting for them to pass. And they don't really work like that.
No.
They kind of just sit there until you work through it. It's like trying to push something open and then pushing harder, but the boxes just get more and more dense behind it. So I think that one thing that is the only way to fully heal from something, and we all learn the hard way, is working through it. And to your point of like our friends being like, just take a walk, touch some grass, that kind of thing. I don't blame them for that response, because I'm fully of the belief, knowing what I know now and knowing what I knew before, that no one would understand exactly what that's like unless they've been unfortunate enough to have an experience like that themselves.
Yeah.
And I can't ask that level of empathy from someone who simply can't achieve it. So I think a lot of my friends, like you said, they did their absolute best. They knew what was right by textbook, but it's like, have you ever had that kind of relationship? And all of my friends were also not Asian.
Yeah.
WPI is also a very non-diverse school. We have some international students, but definitely does not compare to UMass Amherst.
Yeah.
And so I think that they also didn't really understand like the culture where I came back from, how that really impacted me, the upbringing that I had. And so I think on Two Frontiers, I just felt really alone, even though people were trying to be there.
Yeah.
But with COVID, like, this was my culture. They knew what I needed, because the way we grew up was not like pat to pat.
Yeah.
There. It was like a, want some fruit?
Yeah. It's always the fruit.
Classic.
What is it with fruit? Why is it always fruit? But it's always fruit. Like, hey,
I do love fruit.
do you want to eat? Like, it's more of like,
fruit.
do you want to eat is like their, or have you eaten as their I love you.
But I think that I happen to luck out that my brother and I are both really into photography. So when there's COVID and there's nothing else to do, but you have a camera lying around, what else are you going to do? And that's kind of what sparked me to take my creative side more seriously. Music was a huge outlet. So with a lot of time on my hands and solitude, my music account had a rebirth. It was a renaissance. It was insanely active. And I think my account grew a ton. Not a lot, but like most of its growth happened in that period. So you see me starting to play my instruments again that I never had time for. I think it started actually as a attachment because my first boyfriend was also a musician, and both of us used to play together, and it was something I had fond memories of. But then as I started to play songs that like would make me sad, I think there's actually psychological studies that like playing things that make you sad when you're sad is actually good for you. It helps you work through it. It makes you feel the emotions instead of avoiding them. And so I think the more and more I got through it, the more and more like words would resonate me like really well. But as I rehearsed them, they became easier to talk about. And with therapy, it normalized talking about them as well, and normalized being vulnerable with someone. And yeah, it sucks if someone uses your vulnerabilities against you. But at the same time, I'm of the opinion that like, if you have the audacity to use that against me, I don't really care what you think.
Yeah.
Because your morals aren't great if that's how you choose to use someone's trust.
Right.
So I think I just decided to be like, okay, like I'll be vulnerable with you. If you're not going to use that the way that you should, then it's a faster way for me to vet out that you're not the person that I really want to be around in my life. And I think that when I was in COVID, I didn't have to share those vulnerabilities, but everybody knew my vulnerabilities, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
My family at home. And then I just drowned myself in these hobbies where I was able to be vulnerable, where I like sang songs that resonated with how I was feeling. And then eventually they became happier and the performances became happier. The photos started getting more interesting and I started diving into that. And eventually, instead of going from waking up to going to bed and the school year ended after my remote classes, I was doing this internship that was super chill remotely. So I was like, I have all this time on my hands. What am I going to do about it? And that was the first step where I worked on myself. And I started running 7 days a week. I was like, if I'm insecure about my body, let's do something about it. Let's work out. Or if I'm insecure about my career, let's do something about it. Let's work really hard in this project and start a foundation and start like things like that. And when I came back to school, I was like, I know there's going to be a lot of memories that's going to come back up, but I've already built so much on myself that even in those memories, I don't look back at those as the height of my life. I look back to the things I've achieved over the summer as the height of my life, the miles that I've run, the fitness that I've achieved, how great my body felt. And I think everybody knew this, but I didn't realize how effective it was until I tried it. But being physically active and physically fit was so good for my mental health. It was just like so incredibly efficient. And I think like every time I was like, was I not good enough? I think about all this work that I put into myself and all the things I had to offer, all the journaling that I did to reflect on myself and what I could have done better. And I just never had that insecurity. So when I came back to school, like that ex-boyfriend was still in our friend group and we would coexist in a lot of places together. And I think he really expected for me to kind of be like upset and like, oh, like he's right over there. Like, oh my gosh, I miss him. But it was super chill. We were just boys. Like we were just friends. And
like, hi.
Yeah, it was really good. Like I was honestly like living my best life for myself. And honestly, I think that's the best revenge. If you're like a petty person or if you're like a very angered person, there's no, like there is such a thing as killing someone with kindness. And people hate to see you thrive. I like love to see you thrive, hate to see you thrive. So I think that for me was really, really important, going to therapy, getting space for myself, working on myself, and then having a plan for when I came back to school so I didn't fall back into those old habits, really making more time to build my friend network and strengthen the one that I had because I knew what it's like to not have one. And I was really lucky they were there for me when I wasn't close with them before. And we became very close. So I made very good friends out of it. And I also said, like, I have this new hobby. I'm just going to be super involved in campus activities because that's something that I think would make me feel really cool, just to like be involved in campus and know people. And the threshold is so small, but people don't like to do things on their own. So I just went and tried it and I made such good friends out of it. I'm still friends with a lot of them to this day. It helped me know people outside of my class. It taught me a lot of the photography that I know today. And then I just made really, really good friends of familiar faces that kept popping up throughout all of them. And I think that when you force yourself to invest time in yourself, even if it's a little extra effort, a little extra time, mentally it was just so much better for me. And eventually that ex did sort of ask to get back together. And I think that's like the ultimate plan to like prove to people that if you're so hung up on someone, the best thing you can do is work on yourself. It's like therapy relationship 101. And at some point when you achieve a form of yourself that you're proud of, you don't need that validation anymore. And you realize who you really want in your life and who you really don't. So I think that was the majority of my self-love arc. I wouldn't say all of it, but a very significant part.
It's a beautiful renaissance. As you were saying, all these things that you're doing for yourself, it truly is beautiful. And I know you already said it, but yeah, you should be damn proud of yourself for what you've done.
Thank you.
There's a lot to that. Obviously, you would think with the context of how your family dynamic was, that you going back home would be like maybe one of the worst things to happen to you while you were going through some shit, right?
There were pros and cons.
There's
for
there's
sure.
always pros and
It
cons.
wasn't
Yeah,
an
yeah.
all positive experience.
Yeah.
I think being home also created a lot of conflict outside of that relationship. But that was, again, going back to the fight for independence. It was like trusting my brothers over me for certain things for no reason. I remember there was like a really petty battle in my parents' and my brother's eyes for like, we want to save money, but we recognize someone needs to drive. So out of the 3 kids, we're going to have one person have car insurance. And I was working on an internship where I needed to buy materials to physically make COVID masks.
Right.
And my brother was working a fully remote job. And they were like, we're going to give it to him. And I was like,
that doesn't make sense. Yeah.
I literally have somewhere to go. And they were like, oh, but he could drive you. I'm like, he's working. So for most of the time, he can't take me or go. And when he wouldn't work, he would go take the car to go do stuff with his friends outdoors. And so he'd be like, oh, I can drive you at like 9 p.m. when we're done with this thing. So he was doing it for like fun purposes. And for me, I was like, I really do need this. I'm waiting for these materials or I can't progress my project.
Yeah.
And there was a big sit down. And I know in the general scheme of things, it was so simple. It seemed like it was just like, oh, who gets car insurance? Stephanie's just being a little girl, little sister. She's just throwing a tantrum because she didn't get the ideal solution for her. But it wasn't that. It was more so if you look at the bigger picture, it logically doesn't make sense. He's the last person. And my other brother was like a traveling field technician. And he was getting notifications that he might have to get back on the road soon as COVID started lightening up. And so it's like, if anything, I'd rather you give it to him than to me because he actually needs to drive.
Yeah.
So it was like logically he was in last place for who should get it. But it was just the hierarchy. And I think that COVID was a massive push for me to advocate to my parents. Like, you need to think also, you're preaching all of these great morals and lessons about having open mind and being reasonable. And you want me to grow up. You want me to see all of the elements and things that I'm not considering. And I'm showing you. I wrote down on a piece of paper. It was like so serious for me. I wrote down on a piece of paper all of the reasons it made sense to me, all the reasons it didn't make sense to them, all of the reasons I thought my parents would tell me was why they would do that, and all of my rebuttals for it. And my dad kept trying to interject. He has a very bad habit of that. And every single time I said, please let me finish. Please let me finish. Please let me finish. And when I finished my piece, I touched on every single one of the points that I expected him to say and interject with halfway through. And I asked him if he had any questions, and he was silent. But he was upset because he's not very good at being like, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
He gets very frustrated, and he doesn't necessarily propagate his guilt or his shame or embarrassment like in a positive way. It's not like, oh, right. It's more like a, well, I'm your dad at the end of the day.
Yeah,
so
using that card. Yeah, I have authority, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think even though they didn't react in the words that I needed, my point was made. And I think that that's a lot of people, that I trust them to be good people so that they may not react the way I want them to, but they will go and think about it later and they'll reflect on it. And from that point on, it was a huge turning point for my family. And I was like, at this point, like, it's really hard to say, but like, I'm 21. Legally, the law does not see me incapable of doing anything short of a senior discount. I can live by myself. I can drive by myself. I can make decisions for myself. And the really only thing they had over my head at that age is financial independence, because I'm a starving college kid.
Right.
So I think I was like saying to them, I was like, the hard reality is I appreciate so much what you guys have been doing, but all our relationship is right now is transactional. And when the finances are no longer a part of it, you don't have that leverage over me anymore. And I need you guys to trust that, like, with all these years you've raised me, something got through. It's 21 years of you raising me, and I'm not your first kid. Like, I'm not your first rodeo. You knew what you were doing. And I need you guys to trust me the way that you trust yourselves. Otherwise, you're not trusting your own parenting. And if you can't trust me to drive by myself, when will you? I'm 21 years old. Like, when I have a full-time job, maybe, but at that point, there's more to life than just career. And I think that as much as they hate to admit it, that's some learning they had to learn from us growing up, because then with my brothers, they wish they had really pushed social life more on my brothers now that they're out of college and into their careers. And I think my brothers wish that upon themselves too.
Yeah.
And it was just in my own judgment mixed with their raising me and me knowing my friends, building my own set of values of what I wanted to pursue at that time and different priorities. And that's kind of, I forget how we got here. I tangented a lot.
No, you're good. You're good. No, I mean, we got here because we were talking about family, home, like COVID, all that stuff.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I mean,
TLDR, it was good for recovering my self-love,
Yeah.
but it was difficult for fighting for self-independence. And at the end of the day, it was a lot of really high highs and very low lows, but more of the latter. And there were probably really dark moments in my life when, like, my parents' responses were very dark and, like, not things that were conducive to self-love at all. It was
Yeah.
very much like and that's when I think I finally, like, made the decision to be like, all right, like, I tried. You can't say I didn't. I tried to save our relationship, but if that's what you really think, I know that you're not good for me. So if you don't want to have a relationship, it doesn't cost me anything right now, because I'm fighting for a relationship that doesn't exist. And it was at that point, I think my parents really sat themselves up and they really started working on our relationship. And it's good now. I'd say, like, I have a pretty good relationship, especially with my dad. I know that he specifically has come up a lot in this conversation. I think that he is the hardest parent, but also the one that resonates with me the most. I hate to say it, but I have a lot of his traits, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And we have a very similar sense of humor.
Well, it's
So
good
it works
that you're realizing those things to be a little bit more compassionate, and obviously with parents, like, it's really hard. It's really hard to navigate that relationship, especially when you feel like it is, like you said, transactional. You're doing things for them to make them happy, and then they're only doing things just, to take care of you. But as you grow older, they kind of have something snap in their head where they're like, oh, well, they're not this little, person anymore. Like, they going off and doing different things. And yeah, like, I had to, one of my therapy goals was to build that better relationship with my parents, and it's gotten better. But to have these kind of honest conversations with them, I don't know if it'll ever get there. I kind of feel like I know how my parents' ways are. When I went to therapy on my mom, when I was on my parents' insurance, I had to have that hard conversation, because I was like, hey, like, you're going to see transactional things like related to therapy, and this is the reason why. It's a hard conversation. Long story short, my mom was blaming herself because she was like, why would my kid be in this position if I gave them everything that I didn't have? And it was really hard for her to understand that, hey, it's not your fault. In some ways, if you're talking about nurturing, in a way, yes, there is some fault there, but also, like we saw before, our parents did their best. And when I think about what my parents have done for me, I wouldn't be the person that I am without them. To be able to achieve high in my career, achieve high in school, be able to, like, put myself out there and creating a whole brand, like, this wouldn't have happened if they didn't instill hard work and all that stuff within me. So I'll always credit them to that, but I'm not going to deny the fact that relationship wise, parents don't really focus on that relationship like how we see with other Caucasian families, because, like, that's not what their intention is. Their intention is to make sure you succeed and that you don't get yourself into trouble. So however they think it is, that's what they'll do, right?
I think it's tough because it's so difficult to navigate, because 100% our biggest traumas are probably from our parents. But at the same time, I think for the majority of first generation American born Asians, I think that everybody also credits their parents with their best qualities.
Yeah.
Like, all of, like you're saying, like, I would never have done as well in school as I did if it wasn't for how much they pushed me. I wouldn't have had the creative outlets that I had if they hadn't given me the tools, the assets, the lessons, or even just like the interest. My dad is a musician himself. So I think my parents value a lot of those things. They just never prioritized them the way that I did.
Just one last thing I want to touch base on, you know, on your darkest moments is, what was that one harsh thing that you were really saying to yourself? Was it, I'm not good enough? Was it something else?
I think for the majority of it, it was I'm not good enough. I think my most, here we go. I think the hardest thing I've ever had to hear and then cope with myself was when I fought for independence with my dad. It was a very tough battle. Whole family sat down, a lot of yelling, and I stood up for my dad, or for myself, to my dad, as much as he didn't like to hear it. And like I said, he has a habit of interjecting. So every time he interjected, I just kept talking. And I'd be like, nope, I'm still not done. You asked me not to interject you. I'm letting you know when you interject to me. And I kept talking, and he kept trying to interject, and I kept talking. And at the end of the day, he heard what I said, did not have any rebuttal for it, because like I said, logically I thought everything out. And I don't think they realized that I knew them so well that I really could predict every rebuttal they would have. And when I basically tossed all of them and gave justifications for all of them, all he could say, instead of putting his pride behind him, was, you better pray to Buddha that they forgive you for yelling at your dad. And like, I think for me, it was like a huge, all the things I said were very vulnerable. And having to deal with the fact that no matter how hard I explained it was for me, the hierarchy was more important. So I think at that point, that was a snapping point where it was like, yes, you're the only advocate you have for yourself. You're the only person who's going to love yourself. But at the same time, your family does not have to be your main family. And family does not necessarily mean they will love you the way that you need them to. And if you don't have the relationship that you want with your family, that's okay, because you can find that support elsewhere. But yeah, I have tears.
That's okay. That's okay. To have so much seekness of approval from the people that have raised us is really hard when they don't accept you outside of achievement. And I haven't had anything severe in that way. I wasn't someone to talk back to my parents because I had to uphold a reputation. I didn't have, in a way, I felt like I didn't have a choice. I did have a choice, but I feel like I didn't have a choice.
Oh, that's why my parents think I'm a rebel.
Yeah.
They think I'm like a delinquent child.
Yeah, but in reality, you're just expressing yourself, you know?
It was audacity for me
Yeah.
to, I was not allowed to, like, my brothers were begging me to stop, like, standing up for myself, because they were like, you're starting something, just, like, let peace happen, like, we don't need to be yelling about this. But oh yeah, they thought I was, like, my dad picking me up from math team in high school, he was like, you're 5 minutes late. Where were you? Doing drugs behind the school? I'm like, think about what you're picking me up from. It's math team.
Yeah.
So I think, like, they always thought that because they couldn't catch me in the act of, like, something bad, I must have been really good at hiding it. So they were, like, really suspicious of me always growing up, and, like, all throughout college. My mom would ask if I had, like, a secret boyfriend. She was like, I was 16 too once. And I was like, what did you do when you were 16? Yeah. Sorry. But I think that, yeah, it was a huge thing for me to be yelling at them. It was super disrespectful, major taboo in our family, and, like, the hierarchy that we talked about. But like I said, at that point, I was like, I did my piece. At this point, if it's not going to work, then I don't even know like what we're here for. Because what I told my dad was like, you guys are so good at teaching me how to stay alive, you know, like be careful when you're crossing the road, always look behind you when you're in like a sussy place, but you're not teaching me how to live. You're teaching me to stay alive, but that's different than teaching me to live and not allowing me to take these risks for myself, to grow my life the way that I want, to live the passions that bring me happiness the way that only I can feel happiness. You cannot tell me what brings me the most happiness. And if you're not allowing me to find that for myself, then is my happiness truly in your best interests? And I think it took a lot of that. And my dad realizing that if that's not something he supports, that there really isn't anything left for us, that he really started to work on our relationship.
Well said. Well said. That was a beautiful line. Beautiful line.
Thank you.
All right, Steph. So obviously we talked about a lot. Very vulnerable conversation, which I still love. I still love it.
Oh, yeah. Everybody gets to see me cry. I'm like bawling 90% of this video.
Oh, good. Oh, good. I just want to say that we don't know each other on a deeper level basis, right? So this is the real time that I got to really see you at your most vulnerable standpoint. And I just got to say, I'm damn proud of you for what you've done. And, if you haven't said it to yourself already, every day, every single day, every single second, like you are enough for your family, for your friends, for yourself. So I think your story just hit me in a different way, and I'm a huge empathizer, so I can feel a little bit of that pain, even though I didn't live through it. But you took life by the hands, and you like they took life by the horns, and really build the life that you wanted to. So like be damn proud of yourself, and I'm glad you were here to kind of tell your story and for me to get to know you in that sort of way. It's kind of crazy because I felt like there was so much I can relate to you on, and so much I can resonate with, and experiences, dark times, family, all that stuff. So just want to thank you for taking the time to tell your story and to come on.
Thank you. Well, honestly, yeah, I think that you should be proud too, because I know that you mentioned this is mostly like a one-way interview, but even just from like the small blurbs that you were sharing, I'm sorry, I'm still crying.
It's okay. It's okay.
The small blurbs you were sharing, I can tell that you empathize, and I empathize with you as well. I think one of our first interactions was your birthday party, and
yes.
You had a very heartfelt speech, and I told you that I really resonated with that, and I meant it. So you've come a really long way, and you have a whole podcast set up, studio set up, so you're definitely invested in the journey, and yes. I appreciate that a lot, and that you're sharing these with other people, so they don't have to relive it.
Thank you. So maybe, I'm not sure if this will get you continue crying, but I asked your boyfriend to write a note to you. Sorry.
Am I reading it out loud?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'll get you there.
You're saying starting where?
Where there's like the 3 lines in the middle,
okay.
And then finishing from there.
Okay. Endless tides rising. Incoming over Corestone, flowing without fail. Oh, I cannot get through this.
It's okay. Take your time.
Every single day of the past 637 days has been amazing, challenging, and rewarding. Truthfully, call me out on my BS. I 100% looked up the number of days we've been partners. However, if there's one thing I've learned from you, is to always look at the good in everything. To always find joy in the little things, no matter the outcome. Reflecting on the challenges you've shared with me in your personal life, I have the utmost respect for how selfless you can be at times. You're right, I am going to cry at this.
It's okay. Take your time. Gather your breath.
Can I steal another tissue?
Yeah. I got you.
Paragraph.
Yeah. Paragraph. I got you. Word by word. Word. You got this. You got this.
Illustrating what I want to say to you without sounding generic is going to be tough. On sharing words of encouragement, I don't really have much to say other than if there's anything I've learned since we've been together, it's that you will figure it out. And it'll always be your corner. Considering how I was dubbed the problem child of the family, I always come up with trouble. And through all the problems and challenges I've come up with, you've always been there for me. Since we've been together, I've rarely traveled without you, but a recent trip by myself revealed to me that you're someone I admire, want to make proud, and have me incredibly excited to continue our journey together. Following your troubles can be hard for me. I'm probably aware of only a small fraction of them, to be frank. You had a lot of your own individual struggles and the struggles of others, and keep them to yourself to protect those you love and care for. Whenever you can, you always put the needs of others before your own, and it's one of your strongest qualities. For what it's worth, you handled everything like a champ. With love, Timothy. Thank you.
So this is something new that I've been trying to do. This is inspired by something that Jay Shetty, who's a very famous podcaster on mental health and personal development. This is something that he has done before for his guests. Yes.
Thank you.
And to me, I thought it was such a great idea in terms of, in this platform, to become the highest version of yourself. A lot of us are on these journeys to become the highest version of ourselves. And when we're in it, it's very hard to give ourselves our own compassion and grace when problems do come up, or give ourselves credit along their journey. And sometimes we forget, at least for me and myself, I forget how much impact that I have on other people, whether that's through this podcast or through the people that are in just my general life and my family. And the reason why I wanted to do this is to help my guests realize about how much they mean and how much of an impact that they have, because it's something that gets lost on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts and reflections on that letter from your partner. And yeah.
Oh my God. Very positive, even if it doesn't look that way. I think that something that we didn't talk about, but is very, like, something I think about a lot, is that most people going through the hardest times never look like it. And I think that just really got me balling was the part where he was saying that, like, you just try to keep so much of it to yourself. And I know that we commonly talk about, like, turning our friends into therapists and stuff, but we also talk about leading on people, and that's not something that you could do full time. It's just not healthy to have that as your friend relationship. And I think that sometimes when people lean on you, it's also important that you create your own boundaries if it's, like, super aggressive and, like, it's taking away from your quality of life. And that's something I've been trying to work very hard on, and that's kind of why he's always saying, like, putting others before yourself and, you know, like, keeping it to yourself. I don't know, I just try to spread a lot of love in the world, and sometimes that's not the active spreading, that's, like, protecting the people you love from sharing all of the burdens.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he really hit home on all the values I have, and I think it's, like, on us to know that, like, if we have the energy and we know someone's going through it, we can volunteer our services, but we can't ask that of other people. And I think that I wish more people knew who to ask. Like I said, I was saying to you also a little earlier that my college went through a suicide epidemic my senior year, and I think, like, the hardest thing to hear about those and the hardest thing to hear from my friends about myself is every single time someone tries to voice that maybe they're going through a hard time, a lot of people are surprised or dubious or skeptical because you are inherently such a happy person. And I'm sure you've heard it. I know a lot of my friends have heard that before, but it's like, you can never be depressed. You're always so happy. You're so bubbly. You're so peppy. And I think there's a lot of things that people go through underneath. And a lot of these like really great souls that we lost that year were like my friends' friends, my closest friends, like just genuinely all loving, all giving people. And I just wish more people had seen them the way that Timothy saw me. And it really meant a lot to me.
As you say that, it's crazy because I was just reflecting on how I was there too. It's crazy how I was in that standpoint and I was almost there too, and I know people who have almost been there too, and no matter what face or things on social media that people see, you know, everyone struggles through something, and obviously different perspectives of severity. You know, people could say that's not a struggle, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it is what people struggle with, and you don't know how that's going to accumulate to something that's going to push them over. So yeah, I mean, all this is a reminder to be compassionate with yourself, give yourself love, and reach out for help and offer that help in the best way that you can. So
even just talking about it, I think that sometimes you'll be surprised how many people share similar experiences. If you just give a little bit on the first step, you'll get a lot back.
Yeah. All right, so let's go back on the happy on a
note.
brighter note. So we have questions from the audience that I want to get into.
Perfect.
These aren't too well, too heartfelt. So maybe
tear-jerky?
Yes, nothing too tear jerky. So this person asks, "What's the best thing about being a foodie at heart?"
The best thing. Honestly, it's not even about the food. I think the best thing about being a foodie is that you have an excuse to see friends that you never see. I always like to believe that going out to get food is the only universal hobby. Everybody has to eat. True. Everybody loves food, whether it's a specific type of food. Being a foodie that loves all kinds of food means that I love going out to eat with my friends. And a lot of the time, that's like the best way to catch up with someone over a meal. You can eat for so long. You can talk about the food. And it's just like, I have such positive associations with it because I just love food.
Yeah.
True big back moment. Yeah, I'd say that's definitely the best part. It's something you can share with literally anyone.
Facts. I love, you share with anyone, and just it's just overall, it's a good overall bonding experience.
Oh yeah.
This person asks, good techniques to use when learning a different language.
Ooh.
As you are someone that knows multiple languages.
Immersion is definitely one thing. So I think that Cantonese, obviously, I grew up with it. Mandarin was because I was forced to go to, for better for sure, but forced to go to a Chinese school that literally only spoke Mandarin to you. So I'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'd say things back in English. I'd be like, use Chinese. So the forced immersion, but also being able to say how do you say this? And having someone give you that feedback and pronunciation. So 1, immersion. 2, having a person. That's just me. I'm personally of the opinion that it's very hard to learn a language without someone who is fluent in it to give you feedback on whether what you're saying is comprehensible, and to catch your mistakes. So that, and then genuinely the willingness to learn, because I think that my mom could tell me this is how you say it. I'm like, yeah. And then I'll forget it next time if I don't truly want to learn it. So if you're just learning it for that one use case and then you forget it later and you're not actively trying to reinforce that, whether that's speaking it, Duolingo, trying to integrate that phrase into random realms of life, then you're going to forget it. So yeah, definitely those.
I'll take those in mind because especially if I'm trying to learn my family's language a little bit more. I'll keep those in mind.
Have your intrinsic motivations too.
Yeah.
I think like speaking your family's language is a much bigger motivation than just like something you're curious about.
Right.
So definitely hold on to that. And then for other ones, I think of it logically, like Spanish. What I learned in Chinese school years ago, it might be different now. Spanish is the third most spoken language in the world, second to English, actually.
Yep,
which
makes
is
sense.
second to Mandarin.
Mandarin, yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to tackle, those three.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to own the world.
Nice. So you can go anywhere and talk those languages. All right, Steph. So those are all the questions from the audience. Let's get into the big three questions. These are the final three questions that can leave that final impact with our viewers from just like everything we've been talking about today. So the first question I have for you is, if you could sit down with a young Steph, what would you say? What would you say to her?
Don't give a about anyone else. Definitely the piece of advice. There was so much of my life consumed by what other people think, and I'm still trying to learn that that's not the case. But I think that she third person, young Steph from a very early age already had a very good head on her shoulders. And I think that if she just went with her gut, she would still push herself in school. She would still pursue something cool. She would still make something the most out of herself. But she would spend less time investing her energies into the things that didn't matter to her. Because truly, you don't really feel any self-accomplishment achieving things that other people want you to achieve. Especially when it's not met with the feedback that you expect. So I'd say, like, don't give a fuck about whether they think you're a delinquent for taking the car and visiting a friend, because like you said, friend is my version of family. And don't care about what people think if you pursue your hobbies. I wish I had dove into my music and photography account earlier, but I was so afraid of like, what are people going to say if I didn't edit it perfectly, or if I didn't hit all the notes on key? What if I'm pitching on this? I don't care. It's just for vibes. Yeah. I love it now. Like, I will throw anything up there. And I think my most recent video is literally just a compilation of me f***ing up over and over again. So just not caring, and then just doing what you want for yourself. And the people that truly want to be surrounded with you in their lives will take you entirely for all the things that you're passionate about.
Wow. Beautiful. Beautiful. My second question to you is, what does becoming the highest version of yourself mean to you, and how are you doing that today?
Highest version of myself is genuinely living a happy life. Just happy. That means like less stress, but a little bit of stress is healthy. But that means like easier said than done. That's the best advice I would give to little Steph, but it's not easy to ignore what other people have to say. So I think for me, that's surrounding myself with the right people so that I don't have to worry about that, not having drama in my life, people knowing who I am, being okay with that, pursuing my passions, but to a level, I think for me, like less emotionally, more logistically. I am working really hard to pursue my passions on a more developmental extent. I feel like I haven't grown in my passions for a while, and I want to achieve something. I want to hit the next milestone. I want to produce my own music. I want to really capitalize on my photography business, or shoot something I'm passionate about, like nightlife photography and stuff. So I think highest version of myself is truly living my best life for myself, and then finding people that complement it instead of finding people that I think would make me elevate my life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
People definitely can, but I'm living it for myself first. The people are complementary to myself. Allow myself to be selfish.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's the people that you are the product of the five people closest to you.
Oh yeah, I have heard that.
Yeah.
I forget about that sometimes.
And it's interesting that you said having those that compliment you versus elevate you, right? Because when you think about those who elevate you, it's like, oh, like obviously pushing to your limits, but they also may not have your best interests.
It's true.
As well. So,
yeah.
And my last question to you is, if you could connect me with someone to come on this podcast that you think would be great, who would it be and why?
George, actually, I think would be very good on a podcast. I don't think you've met him either. He's one of my other very close friends. He was one of the Blizzard hikers to visit me when I was depressed. But he is someone who's one of the best listeners I've ever had in terms of like talking about life. And he asks some of the best questions that always make you think deeper, dig deeper. But he, as a person, I feel like is in the ways that I cried about Timothy talking about my strengths. He's very silent about his own life. And he's not necessarily been given the best cards either. And he's just taking it like an absolute champ. He's like one of the most happy spirits to be around, even if I know that internally he is struggling too. And I really want to be there for him. And we do stuff for him as well. But he just has handled so much in life. And I think when you actually go and ask him about it, he has some of the best thoughts. So I know that you know everybody that you've introduced on the show, but if you were interested.
Okay, let's talk through and see if we can make it happen. All right, Steph, sorry, I'm catching while you're wiping tears.
The mic catching the sound of my tissue.
No, you're good. Is there anything that you want to plug? Do you want to plug like your photography business or anything like that where people can follow you on social media?
Sure. Stephanie.tam is the main. The travel, which is one of those things I said, I'm going to do this for myself. Photography, it's passion. That's Stephanie Tam Photography. And then my music account is ST Musician. Hopefully I will get more music out there. But there's a lot of stuff I've been working on that haven't been posted. My friend and I have been producing a song since like 2022. And then I recorded an acoustic version of my friend's song that's released on SoundCloud right now. But I just haven't shared any of them yet.
Oh, hey,
so, yeah.
Get it out there. Let the people know. Let the people hear.
If you're interested. Beantown Big Back. Cannot forget about her. That's my foodie account.
It is all on Instagram, TikTok, or all Instagram. Yeah. Okay, I'll make sure to put those down below. Again, Steph, thank you so much. Thank you for being vulnerable. I appreciate you so much.
And thank you guys for watching me cry for like 2 hours.
Good. This is what it's about. This is what it's about. Sorry. Go ahead, Leifert.
Everybody learned a little something. I know I learned something from you. So anytime. It was absolutely my pleasure.
Awesome. All right, guys. If any of this clip resonated with you, clip it. Tag me and Steph in it. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. And as always, let's fall in love with the process of getting better every day and becoming the highest version of ourselves. Love y'all.